So shall we have a look at this little scene in Act 1, Scene 2? Mark, do you want to tell us just what has just happened? What has Ariel just done?
Yeah, Ariel has just performed this incredible magical act of summoning a sea storm, a tempest, in order that the various nobles aboard the king's ship have been washed ashore so that Prospero can enact his revenge. And we'll be looking at the point where Prospero is about to say, we've got more work to do. And I think Ariel believes this to be his last act before he's granted freedom.
Prospero's been sitting on this island for 12 years, and suddenly this chance arrives to enact his revenge. Personally, I don't think he quite knows what he's going to do next. So he said to Ariel, go and do the storm. Ariel comes back and says, I've done the storm, and then Prospero has to work out what to do next.
It might be that Prospero wasn't anticipating there was going to be more work, but now has to somehow persuade the servant that he's just promised to let free, that there's
and
still more stuff to do.
And I think, funnily enough, right the way through the play that happens, doesn't it? And I think he spends a lot of the play saying to Ariel, which is why I think Ariel probably resents it. Oh, it isn't finished yet. I promise you it'll finish soon. It isn't finished yet. And that goes right the way through the play, doesn't it?
There are therefore different ways in which you could play this scene. I guess one of which is with Ariel being defiant, and that his liberty, that he is saying this was the contract, you are reneging on the contract, which provokes the Prospero's response.
Ariel, thy charge exactly as performed, but there's more work. What is the time of the day?
Past the mid-season.
Well, at least 2 glasses. The time 'twixt 6 and now must by us both be spent most preciously.
Is there more toil? Since thou dost give me pains, let me remember thee what thou hast promised, which is not yet performed me.
Now, moody, what is thou canst demand?
My liberty!
Before the time be out, no more.
I prithee, remember I have done thee worthy service. Told thee no lies, made thee no mistaking, served without or grudge or grumblings. Thou did promise to bait me a full year.
That's one of Prospero's few jokes, by the way. Moody.
Yes.
He's not a man known for his sense of humour, and that's one of them. It can go in a number of ways, his relationship with Ariel, and his own anger can go in a number of ways. But the thing about the moody joke, so you're moody, is you can only make jokes like that to people who you know very well, isn't it? I mean, you can't, or trust, or like, and I think their relationship is not affectionate.
Yes.
It's a really interesting thing to call Ariel, actually, given that he is seemingly emotionless.
Moody is also a rather demeaning insult to him, isn't it? Because if he has done this spectacular job of wrecking the ship and saving all the mariners and depositing all the relevant people on the right bits of the island, he deserves more congratulation than he perhaps gets, but also at that point when he is expecting his liberty, to demean him by saying he's being a bit moody,
a bit sulky,
and a bit sulky is...
It's infuriating. I mean, the difficulty for Ariel, of course, is that he does owe these years of servitude to Prospero, who freed him from being trapped in a cloven pine. But Ariel's magnificent. He performs all your biddings. I get up at midnight to fetch dew from the Bermuda Triangle. I mean...
Perhaps we should look at Ariel being more anxious and perhaps more subservient to his master, who is all-powerful as far as he's concerned.
Ariel, thy charge exactly as performed, but there's more work. What is the time of the day?
Past the mid-season.
At least 2 glasses. The time 'twixt 6 and now must by us both be spent most preciously.
Is there more toil? Since thou dost give me pains, let me remember thee what thou hast promised, which is not yet performed.
How now, moody? What is thou canst demand?
My liberty.
Before the time be out, no more.
I prithee, remember I have done thee worthy service. Told thee no lies,
Made thee no mistaking, served without or grudge or grumblings. Thou did promise to bate me a full year.
Notice thou canst demand my liberty. There's something very familiar about knowing the breathing pattern of the other person, that you know when they're coming to a conclusion and you can get your point in quickly or assert that opinion.
Although they might not have had this specific argument before, don't you get the feeling that they've had arguments
Yeah.
before? And arguments about the contract. In fact, a couple of lines later in this scene, Prospero does say, can I remind you what I've done for you? And I have to, once in a month, I have to remind you.
Yes.
There's a sort of sense in which Ariel's constantly just checking that the contract is still in place.
I think it's very clear that theirs is a power struggle and that the power fluctuates.
It's odd. I think they're sort of equals, bizarrely. And because, as Mark said earlier, this thing about human feeling that Ariel supposedly doesn't have, and he learns during the play about human emotions. If he's very subservient, there's something rather more human about him. If he's just giving Prospero facts, I've done this, that's according to my contract, let me go, then it becomes both less human and more equal.
Yeah.
And I think Prospero quite enjoys the power play.
Since thou dost give me pains, let me remember thee what thou hast promised, which is not yet performed me.
How now? Moody? What is thou canst demand?
My liberty!
Before the time be out no
I
more.
prithee remember, I have done thee worthy service. Told thee no lies, made thee no mistakings, served without or grudge or grumblings. Thou did promise to bate me a full year.
Dost thou forget from what a torment I did free thee?